Hey, welcome to this week's edition of People Over Politics. We have a very new guest with us. Some people, might know this face. He's very familiar in the Maryland world, but definitely the cannabis ecosystem. I know him for being big on education and educating medical consumers on, the benefits of cannabis, but also not just being a THC chaser. So learning about those things we've been talking about, terpenes and different ways to consume. And no further ado, I wanted to introduce. I call him, and some might call him Trav's Dabs, but his name is Travis Hale from Elevated Wellness, the CEO. Welcome, Travis.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you having me on. I mean, it's exciting to be here, man. I've heard lots of great things, seen lots of great things, so I'm happy to be here.
Yes, and for people who don't, who aren't familiar with you, tell them a little bit about you and why you do what you do.
Sure. So again, I'm Travis Hale, Trav's Dabs on YouTube and Instagram. Manage Elevated Wellness. I'm a big advocate, big fan of plants over pills is our whole thing at Elevated Wellness. So, we promote plant medicine and utilizing plants for medicinal benefit. There's so much more to it than, just getting high as the stigma has become. Just trying to be at the forefront of everything like that. I've also transitioned that to the, content space. I like to create a lot of content. And as you alluded to, I like to educate as someone who's used a lot of cannabis. I'd say I've misused cannabis and I've used a lot of cannabis in my day. So I'd like to think I have a lot to speak on as far as experiential use. I'm no doctor or anything, but I've puffed a joint or two in my time. So I'm excited to be able to convey that information to more people.
I got you. And so for the nickname, Trav Dabs, what does that stand for? Give us the history, the backstory on that.
So I guess standing for really, it was actually, I came up with it. I started my YouTube channel at the beginning of the pandemic. I decided to start recording my concentrate reviews from everything I was getting here in the MMCC. That's obviously led to where I am today, which is, it was a pretty amazing, long journey, but an amazing one nonetheless. But it was, that's what I do. I dab. I'm a big concentrate connoisseur, big fan of concentrates. Again, medicinally using cannabis concentrates has been life-changing for me, life-saving for me, I'd say. So to, again, be able to talk about that with folks is an amazing thing. There's a lot of new people learning about cannabis concentrates, what they are, what they entail. It's what I do. I consume cannabis in all forms, but dabbing is definitely my main medicine.
And for people, I commonly talk about that there's many different forms of, consumption. You don't have to essentially roll it up in a paper or a blunt, as some people would commonly know. You can put it in different glass products, vaporize it. So of course, there's many different ways, edibles, tinctures, several different ways in which you can consume cannabis. And, as you become an educated consumer, you understand, what best suits you. Right. So, I appreciate that, Travis. And so, tell me a little bit about your store. I've heard so much about it from many people in the community, but especially a good friend of mine, Mac Dawson.
Yep. Yeah. Shout out to Mac. He comes by a decent amount. That's my man. But as far as Elevated Wellness is concerned, so we're an endocannabinoid and botanical fungal studio. We specialize with plants, man. Everything hemp derived, federally legal, no card required at our store, but you got to be 21 plus. We do carry THC products that are hemp derived, so they're federally legal, meet the 2018 Farm Bill. Everything has a COA, third party lab tested. We also carry psychedelics, something we're big into. We just actually got a new drop of our Amanita muscaria mushroom gummies today. Lots of fungus out there. Again, I'm a big fan of the psychedelics for mental health, for also physical pain, alleviation as well. There's a lot of medicinal benefit to those too. So that's what we specialize with. Downstairs, we have a retail store. We have an event space upstairs. Out back, we have a smoking lounge as well. Because again, like you said, there's so many different ways to consume, and we're open to all of them. We're all about, finding what's medicinal for you. It's not, what's medicinal for you isn't medicinal for everybody. So we try to hone in and figure out what what we can recommend based off of our many years of different dealings with, and also lots of, I guess I'd say, compiling of information from all the customers we've had, all the patients we've talked to. Go to a lot of different dispensaries for events. We do a lot of community events. So we've talked to many people in the cannabis and just plant space in general. We like to think, we have a good collection of knowledge to be able to convey that back to more people, to try to pass that information on. So that's what we do, man. Just try to better the world one plant at a time.
Wow. Well, I can't wait to personally check out this space at Elevated Wellness. I've, of course, only heard great things. And, Travis, I will say that, I see you involved in the community, right? So you get outside of your box at Elevated Wellness. I've seen you at events all around Maryland, right? So if it wasn't networking, and trying to further the community, I've seen you personally at dispensaries doing education. So tell me a little bit about, the education component that you're doing outside of the physical Elevated Wellness space.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll take the show on the road a lot of the time. We do pop-ups at about a dozen dispensaries a month. As far as
I've seen you come to True Wellness.
Yeah, yep. True Wellness is one of their stomping grounds. I love heading down to Laurel and hanging out with the fam and Johnny Sticks and the team. Yeah, man, it's always a trip down there. But as far as the education component, there's so many different walks of life. And what I've learned from my time kind of traveling around Maryland and talking to so many different cannabis patients is there's so many different cannabis cultures. Maryland doesn't have one cohesive cannabis culture yet. That's something I'd like to see built, kind of how California, Colorado, those other states have achieved. But there's a lot of little niche markets, I'd say, within Maryland's cannabis space. So it's really interesting to talk to different people about, do you like CBD? Some people have a hex on CBD, like they want nothing to do with it because all they've heard is it makes you not high or something like that. Or they've gotten it from a gas station and it didn't work. No surprise. So we like to go around and, again, talk to different people, be able to talk to them. We go to different events like Beer Bourbon Barbecue, the Baltimore Taco Fest, stuff like that. And where stigma breaking is key. I think we've even gone to the DC Hot Air Balloon Festival, some more family-oriented events, because we understand how to appropriately consume cannabis. You know what I mean? It's not something that should be hidden from the world. I mean, you go to all events, there's lots of alcohol vendors, cigar vendors, but cannabis is something that you have to hide away. Don't look at it. Don't talk about it. So try to be at the forefront of that. And by taking the show on the road and going out into the community, we can do that a little bit faster. Just take a little bit more of a leap ahead and get people to see, okay, this stuff is here to stay. Maybe I should get to understand it a little bit more. Or if you're already a person that consumes it, now you'll be able to get to understand why so many people consume it their way, or this much, all the different variances that are out there. But yeah, I love getting out there. As much as I love having people come to me, I love taking the show on the road because, a lot of people aren't going to take the time to go out and learn. So that's cool. I'll come to you and tell you.
Okay. I appreciate that grassroots aspect that very much go in the community because the thought is like, you're not only connecting with the people that you're connected with, in your space, but you're meeting new individuals, right? And engaging new people. So that's always that's always important. I appreciate of course everything you do, and I will say that it's important that more people take their show on the road, and I've seen from you, it's not profit driven, right? Like you just have a genuine interest in furthering plant medicine and furthering plant understanding and furthering community. So that's what's important because too often I've seen the capitalistic side take over this industry, right? So
no, 100%. I mean, like I said, we're here. We obviously have to live and earn a living, but the point is to further information. There's so much information that's kind of gate kept and not made accessible to people that are either low income or just don't have the means to find the information out, which usually ties into not having, proper information, educational systems, yada, yada, about stigmas constantly being pumped on people. And that's what, leads to where we are today with having to deal with still trying to make cannabis legal, still trying to expunge nonviolent, all kinds of different, cannabis related offenses that we should have had taken care of a long time ago. And that's something I know that you're at the forefront of, which I absolutely adore. Can't wait to join you at some of your future events too. Yeah, man, it's good. Steps are being taken, and that makes me happy.
Well, I'm glad you say that, because for what I've seen CBD as a great way to engage the senior community, right? And so, like, I've been doing that in a very meaningful way, engaging the senior community on what CBD is, some of the benefits, offering samples, offering education from nurses, from business owners, and so on and so forth. But I've really seen that as eye-opening, right? And some of them might thereon become medical patients, but at the end of the day, just hearing that they decreased a prescription or two, is warms my heart for sure.
100%. I mean, like you said, that plants over pills, man. I said that we always say that over and over again at the shop, but like I live it. I mean, I used to take a bunch of anti-everythings for my anxiety and depression that were prescribed by doctors. And that took me down a darker path. I mean, I've talked about that openly before. Whereas cannabis is, I kind of jokingly, but also very seriously say like it saved my life. And I think a lot of, I've seen a lot of people come around. My mother's someone who, when I was young, had thrown away an ounce of my weed, and now she's constantly ragging me for gummies. She needs her gummies from my shop. So I'm like, oh, okay. And then interesting how things change over time. But it's really cool to see, like I said, you said the older generation come around. Topicals, usually the most accessible for folks in that generation. But there's definitely a good selection of people. I've met some, dare I say, elderly dabbers out there too. I won't judge. Everybody has their own methods.
Okay. No, the elderly dab, because I will say, right, just sharing an experience. When I first dabbed in college, I thought I lost a lung, right? Like it was so intense at first. But that's why the elderly dabbers was a very but they weren't doing probably 1 gram dab hits, right? So
I've talked about that a bunch too. That's unnecessary for pretty much everybody. Like I liked bigger dabs, especially during, I'd say, my peak depression back when, several years ago. That's what kind of got me through kind of as needed. But it's not what I recommend for the masses. And I think otherwise you're showing off. I've done it. I've taken 2, 3, 4 gram dabs. You're not achieving anything. That's not cool. Nobody's impressed. It's like, it's cool. I guess it's fun for the gram for the one time, like for Instagram, but like I don't recommend it. I'm not out here telling everybody to start doing that. No need. Live by my mistakes.
Of course. And so for everybody just to understand, the dab concentrates are a lot more potent. Like the potency and the THC level a lot of times is a lot higher than flower.
Yeah, significant. I mean, that's why I found it more beneficial, because I needed that more speedy, that speedier, higher delivery.
Sure.
For my ailments, but not everybody does. If you're sticking with flower, stick with flower. But yeah, you're usually rocking 20 to 30% THC flower. When it comes to concentrates, you're usually pushing 80 towards 90%. I mean, you can get 99% pure THC isolate as well. So there's no end to just how high you really can get. But at what point at what point is it a diminishing return? You know what I mean? We're not really getting any more out of this. We're just kind of showing off.
And so let me ask you this, right? This is the $1 million question. I like my edibles made with flour, right? I'm still old school. I like my edibles made with flour, not concentrates or the other stuff we're seeing. So how about you? Like, are you open to, other type of edibles made? I'm pretty old school with that.
I prefer edibles made with concentrates for a bunch of different reasons.
Sure.
I absolutely think there's something special about the full plant matter being, not plant matter being in there, but the extraction process from plant matter, achieving a little bit more of that full spectrum aspect. Obviously, I would say with flower, there's lower accuracy on dosing, depending if you're doing it at home or maybe if you got one of those nice Levo machines or the whatever, like then that's a little bit more dummy proof. But as far as if you're just racking it in the oven, I think a lot more room for error because that flour is fickle. Whereas concentrates, it's not easy, but there's much more of a rule of thumb you can kind of abide by. And then all you have to do is dump it in. You don't have to extract anything. That's already done. That part's already achieved. You just got to pour the concentrate into your butter or oil and move on with it. I also think the dosing accuracy is a little bit stronger because you know exactly how much you're infusing into it. Whereas the flour, you kind of got to give yourself a give or take of X amount to hope that you're right. I've had sunflower edibles that sent me to the space. You know what I mean? I've had sunflower edibles that I didn't achieve anything. I botched the decarb process. So me, I'm a big advocate. I've actually talked to a lot of even bud tenders, a lot of people in the MMCC that aren't even aware about infusing with concentrates. And that's typically what edibles in the dispensaries, but almost all are made with concentrate infusions because the control is much more detailed. A lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't know how to infuse with concentrates. I've played around. I've made a couple videos before, and I'll probably do more in the future as well because it's just something I love. I love being able to medicate with your daily food. You know what I mean? I'm a big fan of infused foods. I know there's some people out there, especially down at the True Wellness area, that master that craft. So it's cool to see, man. I love the potential of cannabis dining.
No. Our good friend Sticks for sure.
Chef Sticks, man, he throws down.
Yeah, definitely. Well, just sticking on the conversation on flour or concentrates, right? So I would say just playing devil's advocate, right? You know, not saying one way or the other, but playing devil's advocate. One, wouldn't flour be the more natural, process, and then I guess the second thing is it's like sometimes not in the medically regulated market, which you'll see in the recreational market, is you'll see these things made with concentrates that are like, you know, have 3 times, 4 times, you know, the concentrate or the THC level that you would see, you know, in like a regular medical edible. And so like, you know, sometimes those super high, you know, edibles, and I'm not saying we can't have anything higher than 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, but when you're seeing something like 1,000 milligrams,
3,000, yeah.
You know, you're kind of like, whoa, is that even, you know, a healthy product? Because you have consumers who aren't educated, right? And then you have consumers who are essentially just, you know, recreationally taking, and you might have people who are doing it for the first time, right? So that's where you could have, you know, some of these, you know, more extreme situations when you know, the first time they did 1,000 milligrams, you know, so.
So for the first question about, you know, flour versus concentrate, I've always had it's funny. I love that you use the word natural because I've always had this, I don't know how to say, relationship with that word, because a lot of people have always said that flour is more natural. It's natural. It's what grows, blah, blah, blah. But like, I'm a big advocate of the idea that what the human brain can create is natural as well. If that makes sense. Now, again, so like there's within reason. I'm not saying plastics and things like that. I'm saying we took the flour. We were able to find some other products that humans were intelligent enough to create that are able to retrieve or extract all that good THC, you know, beautifulness out of that plant and able to concentrate it down. Now, again, you could argue that, I guess, towards your second question about the, I guess, ruining of tolerances, the unnecessarily high quantity of use, that then becomes the educational aspect and also just human personal responsibility. Again, nobody's to blame for the excess amount of dabs I took but me. You know what I mean? I took a ton of lots of dabs, lots of hot dabs, fast, way more than necessary. Again, was I getting the medicinal benefit I needed at the time? I think so. I know that it got me through, but there was aspects I was missing, as I've learned now with the other cannabinoids I take. For me, when it comes to edibles, I have a much lower tolerance. So I can dab all day. I can smoke till forever. I can honestly forever. Even the 4-gram dab, we could do one right now. I'll cough my lungs out, and I'll probably be able to pick that conversation back up as soon as I can breathe again. But with edibles, if I were to eat one of those like 1,000 milligram, I'm probably going to be gasping for air and like on the ground, holding on, trying not to float off into space because it just affects me so much harder. My liver processes it so much quicker because the absorption methods are different. Obviously, directly into the bloodstream with the cannabis. You know, perhaps I like to think I have a higher tolerance of smoked cannabis than I do edibles because I've consumed so much of it. My body's kind of adjusted to that achieving that method or achieving through that method. But then we were saying about like people eating 3,000 milligrams. What are you doing? Nothing. You're basically bombarding your endocannabinoid system. It's just kind of frying it. It doesn't really make sense to me. That doesn't seem fun. I've seen like their videos do people online pop 1,000 milligrams, a couple thousand milligrams. They go to the mall and stuff, and they just look miserable. Like they don't look like they're having fun. It's kind of the edible equivalent of taking that like 2-gram dab. Like you're not. What are we doing here? Do you feel better because you look like you're freaking out right now. Again, if you feel correct in that mentality or with that dosing for your body, do it. But if you're not, just think about it. That's all I would tell you. I'm not your parent. I would just say, think about it. Are we achieving anything good here? Maybe cut that thing up a little bit. Maybe 500 next time instead of 1,000 milligrams. Like,
Sure.
there's to be responsible with it and ways to be abusive. Again, I'm not judging anybody. I went through my abusive phase.
No
Now that I'm out of it, I try to tell people, hey, check this out.
Judgment-free zone, but of course, we do want to promote responsible use. So I could appreciate
and trying
that.
to avoid negative side effects later, you know what I mean, or just like feeling. There's definitely lots of nuanced things to cannabis use because everybody's endocannabinoid system is different. Again, I'm not a doctor. I don't have any letters after my last name, but talked to a lot of people that have used a lot of cannabis. So I like to think I've seen a pretty good amount of what happens when and where because of what. So I think it's easy to convey back to people and be like, okay, don't say I didn't tell you so.
Of course. And so, Trav, one of the things I wanted to ask you was, it's December now. We passed on the ballot question for, what are some things you hope for? You hope to see come out of that. What, like, as the future of Maryland cannabis?
That is a great question. I think for me, what I want to see is more people being open to the plant, or at least not being so against it they continue to vote that it shouldn't be available for other people. Same with a lot of other social issues that are kind of just exactly like that, where people aren't actually affected, but yet they still, cast their vote against. Cannabis still has a huge margin of that. I've seen, how many, 5 states went up this year and only 2 passed, correct? I think that's where
5 states that was on the ballot.
Yeah, and I think only 2 passed the vote. Maryland was one of them. So with recreation coming, I mean, we'll see.
Maryland and Missouri.
Oh, that's right. So I think with recreation coming, I think what we'll see is a lot more use. I know the rules are going to be a little different as they typically are. I think it's lower dose, if I'm not mistaken, in the rec market, just to avoid the abuses and things like that. Obviously, you still have your DC option currently for a lot of that stuff if you're looking to get that access. But for a lot of people, I think it's just going to become more available. It's going to be more understanding. I look forward to, we're going to expand our cannabis lounge aspect. We're that's going to be a higher emphasis because I think more people need to have that kind of available safe space. I mean, the same way you can go to the bar and get, wrecked, get absolutely obliterated drunk, you should be able to go somewhere and just smoke a joint. Like, it doesn't make sense that one institution is readily available for the masses and another is very frowned upon, very, not ill desire, not allowed around the community just because it's, I don't know, it's just old stigmas, man. And again, that's why we do what we do. Like on Fridays, we have our session night at the store. Everybody can smoke out back upstairs. We vape and dab. You can consume. It's a safe space to consume. That's what there needs to be more safe spaces for cannabis patients, cannabis users.
Yes. And, that 2 things, as we're wrapping, you brought up the safe space. So I know that Explore Maryland Cannabis, likes to create a lot of those. I know Crucial Culture, I've been to a few of his events. I know he likes to create that type of environment with the juke joints. And of course, as you said, so I know that, Baltimore is definitely going to be on the forefront of the recreational. One of the things you mentioned earlier was depression, anxiety. And then we talked a little bit about fungal, right? So a lot of people have mentioned to me the benefits of microdosing mushrooms and treating depression and anxiety. Do you know anything about that, or can you speak or attest to that?
Yeah, I know a little bit about that. I'm a big fan, big advocate for mushrooms. Again, same way, medicinally for the most part, I absolutely implore people to explore that macro effect in a controlled environment where they can, make sure they have a good experience. Because I've had bad experiences. I've had mostly good experiences, but I know what that negative can be like. So for me, the microdose is drastically effective for that daily driver that everything's better. You just feel like taking on life a lot more, especially when you're in that depressive state, when you really don't feel like you can keep on keeping on. I found, besides cannabis, psilocybin, mushrooms are one of the only other things that really have that natural effect for me. And that's, again, for the deep depressive state, I do think people exploring the macro effect, consuming in a higher amount of mushrooms does have a nice brain resetting effect, again, in a controlled situation. And that's why at the store now we carry the Amanita muscaria. Those are mushrooms that the red cap with the white dots. It's kind of like your classic drawn mushroom that you would have ever seen. But they're psychedelic. They're hallucinogenic and psychedelic. Federally legal because the government is, we have people writing laws that have never explored these things, don't listen to experts, talk to experts. And that's why we're able to carry those at our store, which is good. I hope if they're watching, don't change the laws. This should be available for people. But these gummies are fantastic, man. It's very comparable for that same microdosal psychedelic, everything is better feeling. Again, for a lot of people that can't smoke or for whatever reason maybe can't consume cannabis, that's why I think psychedelics is that next step, that next approachable thing. But again, there's also, I'd say, a harder stigma towards that than there even is cannabis. I think there's definitely a classification difference in a lot of people's brains that, again, misconstrued. But yeah, I'm a big fan. I love me some mushrooms.
Well, I'll say a few things. One, I've definitely been in DC and tried the actual mushroom caps and the chocolate. One of the things that I have seen, personally, is the focus level when microdosing for me, right? So I've seen just doing a specific task and being one who has ADHD, how microdosing, just really helped me focus in on specific tasks. And, speaking to individuals who take antidepressants and who've experimented with, psychedelics, of course, on a microdosing stage, they found that as a good, as a good replacement, right? Or, because the thought is like sometimes those antidepressants put them in a worse place than, the place that they were actually in is how they described it to me. So, I'm definitely glad you're big up in that. Do you see, since we've legalized, do you think we're going to legalize mushrooms soon? Is that coming? I'm telling people I think that's down the pipeline.
I 100% agree. I think Maryland will follow suit. I'm no politician, but I'm calling 2025 is when I'm thinking. We'll see. I might even dare say the full it would be. There's been so much research. I mean, same with cannabis, but there's been so much research from very reputable colleges and institutions about the benefits of psilocybin that it's going to be hard to ignore. I mean, again, I'm not the PhD candidate, so I don't have I won't attest to those cancer studies and some of the higher, more impressive, but obviously more questionable. Obviously more. I guess we want to be hesitant to be assertive that is a guarantee. But there's so many benefits to mushrooms. I don't see how it doesn't get pushed through soon. But I don't know. I've been wrong before.
And I'm sure you saw the similar article. It was something I saw this week that said it was from some department that does, of course, the records drug hospitalizations, and it was saying that I guess it was really talking about psilocybin. It was LSD and psilocybin had the lowest hospitalizations of basically amongst any drugs, and that was even including marijuana. And it was you were 3 times less likely to be hospitalized, for LSD or psilocybin, as opposed to marijuana, which is still a very, very harmless drug. But of course, they have the paranoia and other things that can happen, heart palpitations or something. But yes.
Yeah, no, as far as for psychedelics, it's the only harm that can come is if you were to abuse it and then do something that would harm yourself, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It itself isn't going to do anything. Those mushrooms are just going to digest and it'll push through your system. Same with cannabis. But like you said, that binding, having your endocannabinoid system, having your body have a whole built system to take that on is different. You know what I mean? That's where you really start to, I think that's where I started to understand, okay, I know the endocannabinoid system is It's technically still like debated or researched, but I think it's clear as day as far as my use is concerned.
Of course.
And I think things like psilocybin, even LSD, even acid, has its place for medicinal use. Again, it's all about pacing yourself, and I don't think a lot of people are capable of that or take the time to do that. Like you said, even with the THC, with paranoia, some people just go a little too hog wild and they end up in a bad spot, have to go to the hospital or whatever. And then they don't really do anything, and they maybe give you some ice chips and tell you to relax because it's going to pass.
Of course. And, Trav, you provided so much great information. I want to ask you a few rapid questions. We call this the rapid round. Just to get to know you more intimately, but, on the fun side.
Okay.
So the first question I have for you is, what is your favorite terpene?
I'm gonna be a little different and say linalool. Linalool, I think, is my favorite terpene. It's one that you don't get too much, but when it's in a product in a higher capacity, especially concentrates, I'm in heaven. Like it is amazing for me. I think a lot of people obviously lean towards either myrcene, limonene. A lot of people say they avoid pinene, like myself, but linalool, I think.
Okay. And Trav, my next question is, what is your favorite superhero and why?
Favorite superhero and why? Oh man. That's a really it's supposed to be rapid.
You didn't expect that one. You didn't.
No, I don't know why I didn't expect that. I think
back to when you were a kid or something, right? Like,
I think I'd say Spider-Man, but specifically Tom Holland Spider-Man. That Spider-Man.
That's a newer one, right?
He's the best one. He's the best one. Tobey Maguire can kick rocks. Yeah, I like Tom Holland.
Wow. Okay, shots fired. Okay. And so my last question for you is, what is your favorite strain of all time?
Purple Obeah. That one I'll answer rapidly.
Purple. Oh yeah, that's
from Evermore is my favorite strain by far.
Beautiful one. I remember that.
So good. Cross of cherry pie and tangy.
Yes.
Just kiss. So good.
Well, we gave Evermore a shout out today. If you didn't hear that, and so Trav, tell people how they can stay connected, how they can tune into your podcast. I hope to check it out and be a guest on there sometime. But
yeah, heck yeah. Come by the store, Elevated Wellness in Hamden. Trav's Dabs on YouTube, Trav's Dabs on Instagram, and then Get to the Joint show with CannaQuest and myself. I know you've had CannaQuest on the show before. So I'm excited to be here too. In the likes of someone like him is awesome. We run the show here down in my studio. Check it out. We're on YouTube. Always talk about the cannabis space, everything from top products we're enjoying, things we're not enjoying, everything cannabis. You'll find us doing it all, man. Come check us out.
Yes, come check them out. And Trav, let me know next time you're in Laurel. Definitely trying to educate people in all things cannabis, CBD in the city of Laurel. And I have a few events, of course, a toy drive, a food drive or food giveaway, and then also expungement clinic. So I'll make sure to share that with you and, definitely join when you can.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate the invite. You're the best.
Okay. I appreciate you. Talk to you soon, Trav.
Absolutely. Have a good one, man.
Absolutely. Everybody, that was Trav Dabs from Elevated Wellness. Make sure you go check out the store. Make sure you go check out the podcast. As he said, CannaQuest, great dude. And look forward to seeing you next time. Stay tuned.